Good Wednesday evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. I thought this evening I would take these few minutes and read from the book, The Words of My Grandmother, Levie Bratcher. In 1976, there was this little book that was published called Cabbagetown Families, Cabbagetown Food, with all kind of recipes and so forth in it. Trying to get the rights to republish it, to put it back out in publication so people can buy it. So that's in the works. But this evening, I thought I would read, my granny, Levie Bratcher, came to Cabbagetown in 1919, and she was 14 years old. And so when the people of this was putting this book together, sat down with her and asked her about some of her stories. This is her words. We were sharecroppers on a farm. See, my mother had to raise us because when I was 10 years old, my dad died. I started cooking when I was about 8.5 years old. My mother taught me how to cook. I thought I was the first pound of cornbread I cooked. Every print of my fingers was on the top of that bread. I cooked for the family. My sister didn't do very much cooking till she was up 14 or 15 year old. In fact, she didn't start till after I married. She started cooking for Mama then. I'd go to the field and work till about 10. Then I'd go home, fix dinner, go back about 1, work till about 5 that evening, come in and fix supper if I hadn't fixed my supper when I did my dinner. Generally, we boiled green beans or peas or something like that. I'd always cook enough bread till I could roll it up in a clean towel to keep it warm. We didn't buy our meal by 10 pounds. We bought it by the barrel, the big barrel. And I'd scrape me a hole down in there and roll that towel up, cover that bread up with meal. We made sassafras tea to drink with meals from fresh sassafras, the red root, not the white root. The white, you couldn't use that. They tell me that it's poison. But you see, when you get the root, it'll be red and you wash it real good. Put it in the pot and boil it. Take it up and sweeten it. Mama also used to make us locust beer. We take the locusts, they grow about 6 inches long, and they're black, and they got seeds on one side, and they look like honey on the other side. And when you bite down into that hull, it looks like honey. You just break them all together, and Mama would put them in a container and let them soak, and then they'd ferment, and when they'd go to working, she'd run it off and make our locust beer out of it. It wasn't intoxicating, it was just something you drank. She'd let us drink it maybe between meals. Get it good and cool. In the country, you could let it down in the well and keep it cool that way. Draw it up at night if you wanted to, drink it with supper. She used to, I reckon they still do it now, make catnip tea for the babies. And we take camphor gum, and whiskey and make our camphor out of it. You could wash your baby's head and then rub a little camphor over it, and you wouldn't make it sick. Mama used to also make peach tree poultices. Take your peach tree leaves and beat them. Just beat them till you bruise them. Any kind of sore we had, she'd wrap that poultice around it. We lived in the country off and on after I started having children myself. I first moved here in 1919 and went to work, then a thread needles, and in 1920 I went to work in the bag department. In fact, I met my husband in Cabbagetown at the mill. I was going up the mill steps one day and seen him at the mill gate and whistled at him and run. He didn't even see me. That was on a Monday, and the next Monday I met him personal. He lived the second door to me, and naturally I had to go up to see his mother. I'd had my eye on him for quite a while, but never did know him. I met him on Monday and married him the next Sunday night at 7:30. I was married in 1921 in the big red house up there. In 1922, I had my first baby, and my husband moved me to the country. We stayed 6 months. We came back to Atlanta, and a few years later, we bought us a farm and moved out to about 8 miles below Dallas, Georgia. We bought our cows and our chickens and our ducks and our guineas, and our mules, all that we needed to farm on. We moved up there in September. We were still working up here in the mill, me and my husband both. We had a car, and every day we'd drive in. We both worked the same shift. About the 5th of the next September is when the house went down in ashes. Everything we had burnt down. I mean to the ground. Didn't leave me nothing but what I had on. What the children had on. After that, we come back to town. We never did move out no more. We moved back to town in 47. I just lost hope of everything when I lost all that I had down there. It just didn't matter with me which way things come, just so the family was well. You lose everything you got, it makes it hard on you. It happened in the daytime, and I wasn't even home. I was in town. They didn't put out fires in the country. There wasn't no way you could do it, because there wasn't no fire plugs out there. Wasn't no need of calling no one to fight the fire, because it done got out of hand before you could have done anything. I kept working at the mill. I went to the spool room, and I stayed there for about 5 years. When I went to the weave shop, filling batteries and doing my own weaving, I stayed there for about 20 years. Altogether, I worked about 35 years. This was a beautiful place to live when I first came here. All of that back alley out on Reinhardt, Wyman streets. That's another of those streets they tore loose. Wyman Street no longer exists. They closed off Tenale. That used to be a beautiful place. They just ruined it. They tore everyone's houses down, and they moved a bunch of them. We used to have one they called Chinch Row up on Memorial Drive. One of the boundaries of Cabbagetown. They were so close together, that's why they called it Chinch Row. I'm going to tell you, time changes everything. Been lots of changes. We had flowers, and we had our garbage can down in the ground. We had beautiful flowers all up and down. People would come out of the mill, and we'd have the best time sitting out there, watermelon cutting, and everybody was friendly and sociable. And one wasn't afraid to stick his head out, afraid the other'd cuss him out. Out here on the corner, we had a nice house, and they had a great big old horse, and they kept him tied. I was scared to go get the ice, afraid the horse would get me. On Carroll Street, we had a wood yard, and they had mules down there to haul the coal with. Now we could order our coal from the mill by the ton or half ton, but most of the time we just wait till the peddlers come by and buy 4 baskets. Let that do us a day or two, and here would come another peddler. They'd sell wood and lighter splinters. We used the lighter splinters to light our coal. They'd come around with stove wood. We'd buy 4 baskets for $1. That would last us a week. Every day they'd come through with coal wagon. But you know, most of the people just buy once a week. That kept them busy. Peddlers also brought vegetables by the scores. They bring onions, apples, oranges, bananas, Irish potatoes, sweet potatoes on Saturday. You see, we worked then till 12 noon, and when we come out, they'd be over there at the mill gates with all that stuff, and anything you wanted to buy you could get. You could get a head of cabbage for a nickel, get a big bucket of little Mella Yates apples for a nickel. Bananas, you could get them a dozen for a dime, and green beans, you'd get them 25 cents a gallon. Big bunches of onions for a dime. We lived at home out of here. Food was sure healthier then. It was fresh vegetables brought right from the garden. It wasn't laid over and wilted and rewatered. It didn't lay there till all the taste get out of it, and then they try and sell it to you for 40 or 50 cents a bunch. Now, no telling how long it's been in the freezer before you get it. These people would bring it right from the country because the dirt would still be on the turnips, and you knew that it was just fresh pulled after they gather it on Friday and bring it in on Saturday from the farm. It wasn't like opening up a can and taking a bite. Now everything's so instant. All you have to do is open you a can of biscuits and throw them in the stove, and you get a little meal and bop you a muffin or two out of it, and throw a can of beans in there. We didn't have refrigerators then at all. I'd buy ice every day. Sometime I'd have to buy it twice a day. I'd get 50 pounds of ice and wrap it up in an oiled tablecloth and then put sacks over it and keep it all day long. When ice boxes come out, we thought we had something. I enjoyed that living. I really enjoyed it. I've lived in this house about 6 years. We lived up on Powell Street when my husband died. I lived with him for 46 years and had 12 children, 5 boys and 7 girls. I can stand on my front porch and holler to where every one of my children was born except to the Grady Hospital, and I don't think they can hear me holler up there. I have a musical family, even down to my mother. She blowed a French horn. All my children, my brothers, play something. Me and Azalee, my sister, we never did take up no guitar picking or nothing. We sang quite a lot. I tell you, I really enjoyed getting a big bunch around on the guitar and singing. That's one of our hobbies here at the house. Corrine, my daughter, will get the guitar, and she and I'll sing and play sometimes for hours. I enjoyed my family. I wouldn't take a gold nugget for the pleasures that we've had together. See, me and my daughter lives here together by ourselves now. Namaste.